Michigan State was able to beat Nebraska, and I'm going to say they beat Nebraska via one play, and then ultimately the effects that one play had on Nebraska's defense. We're going to focus on Michigan State's offense in this game. The first thing I want to comment on, by and large, Nebraska did a good job in transition, so we won't address that even though Michigan State got some points in the second half off of it. So the first thing we're going to look at is Michigan State and the type of shots they were getting in the first half. So this is the first half, ball gets moved around, eventually we're going to see drive, floater. This is a couple minutes later. See similar situation, Nebraska stops the ball a little bit, Michigan State pulls in, long two. I believe they get a rebound here. Nope, Nebraska gets a rebound. Here we go again. Michigan State loosely stopped in transition, moves the ball around. We're going to see what kind of shot they get. Again, there's not really clear action here. They just kind of swing the ball around and get whatever's the first open available look. Here we go. This we can see at least Michigan State this time. They have a half court set. I don't know. Maybe this is coming off the timeout. I'm not entirely sure. But again, the help comes. Settle for the long floater. Okay, so we're going to contrast that to, there's one play in particular in the first half that we're going to watch, but then we're going to see in the second half how it's markedly different shots. So this play right here, Michigan State comes up and sets a ball screen, but we're going to see the real issue is what happens on Nebraska's backside, how they help and how this forces Nebraska to go in rotation, which leads to an open corner three. So here Nebraska has two players up in the ball. The person that has to help is now the person that was guarding the corner shooter. There's a miscommunication here, and open three. You can see that Nebraska in the first half, they finished up 12, playing tremendous and holding Michigan State to only 26 points, which is remarkable. Okay, the first thing we do have to discuss is that Michigan State did shoot 11 of 16 threes from behind the for the second half, which is very good shooting to say the least. So the first thing to note is that 16 threes is much more than they shot in the first half. So they were looking to space out the Nebraska defense and take advantage of the rotations, especially leading towards perimeter shooters. Okay, so here is the first instance of this. So we're going to see that Tom Izzo's assistant coach, calls out a play right here. This is always going to be the situation. We have shooter in the corner. Number 10, it's almost always number 10, is going to come up to the high post and essentially just chill here and or set a little screen when the big comes up. Watch this. Boom. Big comes up to set a ball screen on the ball. The goal here is to essentially create confusion among these three Nebraska players. Drive comes down. Derek Walker, who was guarding the big, is now come up and he has to provide a little bit of help on the drive because Grease was cut off. And then Vilcher in the situation doesn't know whether he's supposed to help, whether he's supposed to stay connected to 10. He's confused because 22 is going to roll aggressively in a moment. So 22 rolls. Nebraska has three players in the paint, which means that we have one player over here. Tominaga does a good job of recognizing this. However, the point guard makes a tremendous pass and just throws it to the spot where no Nebraska defender is. I can literally let the tape keep going because we can see Michigan State the very next possession, as soon as it switches back over, runs the exact same concept. Boom, ball screen comes down. It cut off so we didn't see it at the beginning, but number 10 is the one popping up. Finds number 10. A little bit less open last time, but again, Nebraska is confused. Rotations, 3. Look at this. This is an interesting little thing. This isn't the exact same because instead of the bigs being the one down here and coming up to set the screen, the big is actually setting the original screen. So this is like a little variation that Michigan State was trying to run. It worked kind of well, but not quite as clearly. But again, taking advantage of the rotation for perimeter shooters. Okay, so after this point, Nebraska switched to a zone because of this one play that Michigan State was running and they couldn't stop it. Here's Nebraska's zone. The zone actually did a tremendous job and allowed Nebraska to maintain the lead that they had as Michigan State had closed it to a very close gap. The zone kept Nebraska in the game. Michigan State did ultimately get a couple of decent looks, but those are much more contested than they were moments ago. So like this shot, like that's good shooting as opposed to poor defense. So here we can see Nebraska goes back to the zone, or goes back to the man-to-man. So I'm literally going to let this play for 35 seconds. We're going to see a couple of plays here. So same thing, same situation, exact same thing happens. Boom, confused. This is literally after they've gotten torched by this play 3, 4, 5 times in a row, and the same exact situation happens. Open shooter, and they don't know how to rotate and give up a wide open 3 to a good shooter. The very next possession, Michigan State, for some reason, doesn't go to the same play, and what happens? Turnover. Right? Nebraska looks to run or looks to push a little bit in transition. They get 2 points out of it. I don't understand why Michigan State would go away from the play that was working. But that being said, they go right back to it. So obviously they knew what they were doing in the long run. Same thing, exact same concept. Nebraska a little unsure how to handle it. Open shooter. Like, how many times can you let this one time be? Like, it's literally the same play over and over and over again, and it beat them every single time. The first time we actually saw Nebraska defend it correctly was all the way down with 4 minutes to go in the game. Like, if the first time you're defending it correctly is when you're down by 6 after leading by 12, it's probably not going to be a good situation. Okay, so here I will say Nebraska at least does make the right adjustment. Hopefully this bodes well for Nebraska in future games. Instead of having Derek Walker try and fight through the screen and come up to the ball, they just have CJ Vilcher, the other defender guarding the guard, turn around and be the help in that situation. CJ kind of gets stuck behind it. Derek Walker does a good job though. But CJ just stays with 10, follows him up. Derek's already in position to help. And then the rotations are in the right spot. Like, this is all Nebraska needs to do, is keep 2 guards at the top instead of getting confused and having Derek Walker try and navigate 2 screens. And the Michigan State makes a nice dunk. I think it was a travel. But still, at least Nebraska had the right defense in that situation. That being said, it was too little too late. Michigan State did run away with it, continuing the hot shooting that they had continued.